Hello, this is Todd Shank from Premier FPL with the Gameweek 8 FPL tips. So for this week, a few of the things I want to take a look at are the leaky defenses. So who are the teams to target against? Some of the must-haves. Are there any must-haves out there right now? Looking ahead at some of the upcoming fixtures, and then kind of wrapping up with some injury news and captain report. All right, so to start out, just to take a look at, we have the last week's dream team here, but I guess the main thing I wanted to look at is the top transfers in and out for this game week. As you can see, Mount, De Bruyne, Yarmolenko, Abraham, and McGinn are all the top transfers in. And then top transfers out, you have Pukki, Salah, Dean, Wan-Bissaka, and then Aurier. Aurier is mostly because of his red card. But taking a look at Pukki, Salah, and Dean, I think a lot of people are jumping off of both Pukki and Salah because of their recent, mostly blanks for the past couple of weeks. But I'm not so sure. I'm not ready to drop Pukki at this point, especially they have a home match coming up. He's tended to score more in home matches, so definitely not planning to get rid of him just yet. Salah is one that I'm kind of questioning whether I do want to continue with him. And same thing with Dean, not really picking up the points despite having fairly decent underlying statistics. I think the bigger issue, as a wingback, he is creating a lot of chances, but there's nobody really there that's able to get on the end of them. So they're mainly a lot of wasted chances. And then combine that with the fact that they're just not picking up any clean sheets, he's really losing a lot of value there. Obviously, top transfers in, great reasoning for that. A lot of these guys have good fixtures coming up. And then we'll take a look at De Bruyne later on. Okay, so some of the leaky defenses. Want to actually take a look at that here. Did not pull up. I didn't have that pulled up previously, but one of the things that really taken notice of, let me pull up some of the statistics here. I went through and looked at some of the underlying statistics for some of the teams, and just tried to get a look at, who are some of the teams that are really not doing well in terms of allowing a lot of chances, allowing a lot of high XG conceded, high number of big chances conceded, no clean sheets, lots of goals that are being let in. Let's see if I can find the statistics for goals let in, because I think that's one of the main places to start here. Goals against. Okay, so as you can see here, the top teams that have allowed goals in are Watford, Norwich, Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth. Kind of looking at the top 5 there. And out of those, I would say Watford, Norwich, and Bournemouth are the 3 teams that basically showed up in a lot of the, bottom 5, or however you want to look at it, top 5 teams for giving up big chances, giving up open play goal attempts, those sorts of things. So I would say that those are probably the main 3 to target if you're looking at trying to find a leaky defense and finding attacking assets against those teams. So looking at who does Watford. So Norwich has Aston Villa coming up, Bournemouth, Manchester United, Brighton Hove Albion, Watford, Everton. One thing at home, Norwich has done better as far as scoring goals, so be careful about your defensive assets in those matches. But Watford has not been, they don't really seem to care where they're playing. Now, if you look at some of these teams coming up, I think there's a lot of great players that you can pick up from some of these teams against Watford. I think they are right now the team to really target against. Finding someone like Lundstrom from Sheffield. Tottenham, if Son, Kane is looking a little better lately, at least in terms of scoring goals. Bournemouth, that one could go either way, really, if you think about it. Chelsea, another great one. Then Norwich and Burnley. Then the other one, who did we have? Watford, Norwich, and then Bournemouth is actually up here fairly high, mainly because of their attacking. They have been able to score goals. So if you're thinking about, I wouldn't say you necessarily want to drop the attacking assets for Bournemouth, but defensive assets are going to struggle, especially against Arsenal. The way United have been playing, I don't know that that's necessarily, that could be a good one to actually look at bringing in some United assets for that match. But just thinking about trying to target some of those three teams if you're really trying to pick up some, even thinking in terms of like differentials, if you can find somebody to target against them. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at some of the must-haves. Are there any must-haves at this point in the season? I would say, so if we look at, total points, we have De Bruyne, Aguero at the top here. Team selected by Van Dijk has the highest percentage, going down through Pukki, De Bruyne, Salah, Sterling. So I guess a lot of this depends on how you want to look at it. If you want to think about it in terms of must-haves being trying to find players that have high ownership percentages and not wanting to miss out, you could always just go by, team selected by. You can also take a look at the total points as a way to kind of take a look and see, who has the most points and is that somebody that I really want to target. And I think the other way to do it would be to kind of look at form, who has the high form right now. Thinking about, you look at someone like Callum Wilson and you don't think that he would be the type of player that really should be much of a must-have. However, if you look at his points, he has picked up points in every single match this season. Whether that's an assist or a goal, he has come through huge for everybody that has picked him. Only 11% ownership. That is, in many ways, that could even be seen as a borderline differential. I think it would be interesting to see how many people in the top 10K have him. But let's see. Let's take a look. Top 10K. So if you look at the top 10K, Wilson isn't really showing up in here till about, here we go. So about 16.2% of the top 10K have him. So out of the 11% ownership, it does seem like there's a fairly high amount of ownership in the top 10K with Callum Wilson. So I would say he's actually one of the players that is definitely a borderline must-have. At 7.9, it's kind of on that cusp of maybe just a little bit too expensive, but at the same time, it's that borderline area where you could fit him in pretty easily into most squads. I think the other one would be De Bruyne. Now, this is one of those issues where at the moment he's listed at a 75% chance of playing. So it's hard to say that going into this weekend he's a must-have, considering that he's might be injured. However, when he's playing, I believe that he is probably the top must-have player. He's another one. The one week where he didn't do well was, only came on as the sub against Norwich. Was not a great match for City as a whole, but otherwise, he's contributing points in every single match other than that Norwich one. Not to mention having 3 double-digit and just falling one short here. If they pick up that clean sheet, then he's definitely in double digits there again. Um, so he is. I would say that De Bruyne is probably the number one like must have that you need to have in your team. At 43.5% owned, that is almost half of the players playing this game that have him in their team. So if you're somebody that doesn't have him in your team and somebody else does, you're looking at probably having a red arrow for that week where he is able to pull off a lot of goals. Now, the thing is, I don't necessarily think that there are any other real must-haves outside of De Bruyne and, I mean, possibly Callum Wilson. The only issue with Wilson is, I'm not sure when he's going to. You never know when he's going to let up. But the fact that he has come through so big in these first 7 game weeks kind of points to the fact that maybe he can continue to do this. Even picking up an assist against Manchester City seems like a pretty good sign. Picking up a goal against Leicester, he's done very well to start the season. So, yeah, he's kind of that borderline. I think that really, I would say the one big must-have that everybody needs to have in their team when he's fit is Kevin De Bruyne. All right, looking ahead, have the fixtures coming up here. The top fixtures looking ahead: Arsenal, Chelsea, and Everton. Now, this is just looking at the official games kind of fixture difficulty rankings. Now, I would definitely agree Arsenal, Chelsea have great fixtures. Looking through here for the next 6 game weeks, Chelsea's toughest one is going to be coming up against Man City in game week 13. Everton, now the tough one with Everton, yes, they look like good fixtures, but if you look at them statistically speaking, they've already given up 12 goals this season and only scored 6. So they're not scoring goals, and they're letting goals in pretty frequently. So where was I? Back. I wouldn't advocate for picking up Everton players. I don't think that they might pick up a few points here and there, but really, that's not a team that I would advocate for picking anybody. Bournemouth, now again, that's an interesting one. I would say attacking assets. Even Joshua King is coming back into scoring form lately. Callum Wilson is probably the best one there for sure. You can already see he's at 46 points already this season. So really playing well. Let's go back up here to total points. In the top 10 already for the season. So he is certainly one to consider for the next coming game weeks for sure. Arsenal away could be a tough one, so maybe wait until the Norwich home match is a great one. And then you have Watford. United hasn't been great this season. Newcastle is another one that has showed up pretty frequently as far as conceding goals this season, already given up 13 goals, which is third for most allowed. And then Wolves is another team. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. They are 7th for goals allowed. I guess technically they would be tied for 5th with Bournemouth and Everton having allowed 12 goals already this season. So Bournemouth have a good run of fixtures, I think, through here. Probably a good time to look at bringing in Callum Wilson for these upcoming fixtures. Burnley, not bad fixtures. Burnley is Burnley. There's Chris Wood. Eric Peters has been doing well. Ashley Barnes. So, they're one of those teams where they're not exciting, but you'll get points from them. So just something to consider there. Moving on down through, I don't know that I would recommend any United assets. West Ham is an interesting one this season. Yarmolenko playing well. Even Aaron Cresswell seems to be back and playing, so he always has had attacking and defensive returns. And so if they do continue with their clean sheets, they have some great, I would say these next 5 matches through here are great chances for them to pick up some more clean sheets. Brighton here in the middle, mainly because of this match against Norwich and then Aston Villa as well. Leicester, I think it is one that I would say would be a little bit higher on this list, other than the Liverpool and Arsenal matches in there. But against Burnley, actually, thinking about even against Liverpool, they're giving up goals. Arsenal, one of the teams that showed up pretty frequently as far as giving up things like pretty high XG conceded for the season, giving up a lot of open play goal attempts this season. I think they're near the top as far as errors leading to a goal, and even I don't think they're quite as high for errors. Fairly high as far as errors leading to a chance as well. So I think that Leicester playing against any of these teams have a good chance. They've been playing very well this season too. And I think the only thing that really brings City down is the Liverpool and Chelsea matches, which could really go in City's favor anyway. So I would rank them much higher than they really are. Like I said with Norwich, you want to look at their home fixtures, really want to target those more than anything. Okay, so moving on to the big injury news for the week is Kevin De Bruyne, who's currently ruled out for this weekend with a groin injury. Pep has said that it all depends on how he responds to the rehab program. No return date listed, despite I know that they have him listed as 75% chance of playing, but I do trust Premier Injuries a little bit more. They're a little bit more accurate, and as long as you're able to check them, say definitely listen into Pep's press conferences later this week to see what he says about that. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there were any other major. Joel Matip is listed with other. Fabianski looks like he is out as well. Actually, I do want to take a look. Aston Villa here with Wesley, 75% chance of playing. Mings is 75% chance of playing. So seems pretty likely that the two of them will be available for the weekend. Kind of go down through. Right, I did want to take a look at Matip, see what he's listed at. 50% chance. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not playing, but certainly won't be playing midweek. The other one listed on here is Fabianski, currently being assessed and most likely ruled out, so that could also affect their chances of getting clean sheets moving forward as well. Okay, so I think that's actually basically where I'm going to finish. I do like to take a look here quickly at if there's any price rises or falls. Doesn't look like there's any coming up. Looks like the falls, Dean, a lot of people are transferring him out. So I think that that's one that I will have to take a look at and try and find a replacement. Now, I will say as far as replacements for De Bruyne, probably the best one is Mahrez here. Has already played. He's already made appearances in all 7 matches. The only issue is having 4 starts for the season. But in those 4 starts, he has played the full 90 minutes. He's played the full 90 in the past 2 matches. Especially if De Bruyne's out, I think he is probably the best switch. But even if he is not out, I could definitely see Mahrez getting a lot more playing time moving forward, and even fitting him in maybe instead of Sterling, fitting him in the midfield. I was actually even considering dropping Salah for him. In fact, one of the things that I was even considering doing is looking forward with my wild card of maybe picking some more value picks. So moving away from having so many premiums, moving away from, Salah, Sterling, and maybe going with more of you'll probably fit in Callum Wilson, Abraham, Firmino up front, someone Mane might even be a little bit on the higher end there, but Mahrez, De Bruyne, midfield, along with maybe Mason Mount, Madison, McGinn. Go with something that's a little bit more of a value across the board, just to kind of tinker and see what that would look like. Mix and match with the forwards. Could have Vardy instead of Vardy instead of Abraham, or Vardy instead of Wilson, someone like that. But yeah, just something that I was kind of considering. I know the issues there are if those players don't perform and someone like Salah or Sterling really does come through, or Aguero, then I think especially, Salah, Sterling, with their high ownership percentages, if they come through and one of my value picks does not, that's going to be a pretty big red arrow. So just something to kind of consider moving forward. Anyway, so don't forget that after game week 8, we do have another boring international break that throws a wrench in everything. So just be prepared for that. Have another week off before game week 9 comes. If you haven't used your wild card, that's usually one of the better times to use it. I would say if you are going to do that, just make sure you wait until the internationals are over, considering how frequently players come down with injuries during the international break, which is the number one reason why I hate it so much. Right, so I think that's actually where I'm going to wrap it up for this week. Hope that everybody has a good game week, and let me know what you think. Is there a must-have out there that you think needs to be on the list? Do you agree is De Bruyne a must-have? Maybe there is no must-haves in your opinion, but let me know down in the comments below. And otherwise, wish you good luck and have fun.